One of the most satisfying parts of history is discovering the solution to a mystery, but these 10 will never be solved. Mysteries are mysterious, they're fun, there's so many shows and books about this exact subject, but sometimes mysteries will go unsolved probably forever, including these 10. So let's just start it off with number 10. Who was the first person to scale Mount Everest? Now you might say, oh, obviously it was Edmund Hillary. Everybody knows that. It was May 29th, 1953, and Sir Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa scaled Mount Everest, and finally somebody had done it. Although there had been many attempts in the past, nobody ever looked out over the peak. But as of today, it's been summited by 6,664 different people as of January 2024, and it is so popular, oftentimes you see giant lineups at certain base camps just for people to leave. It looks almost like a tourist attraction, more than an unaccomplishable feat that we thought it was only 70 years ago. And as a reminder of how dangerous it can be to scale this giant mountain, the highest mountain on Earth in fact, there are bodies littered all over the place as landmarks, some of them so famous they have their own names like Green Boots. But what if I told you in 1924 it's possible that the mountain was scaled over 30 years before it was officially done? You see, in 1924, British mountaineers Andrew Irvine and George Mallory died on Mount Everest. And since then, there's been speculation on whether they summited the mountain before they perished. This speculation started to really ramp up in 1999 when Conrad Anker, a climber, found Mallory's body at a height of almost 27,000 feet. Now keep in mind, the mountain is 29,032 feet, so we're talking about, in meters, let's say, 600-ish meters, so 6 football fields from the top of the mountain. So what are the chances that he died right there and never moved down the mountain? Or is it possible they summited the mountain, they were completely exhausted, and then they couldn't get down? Then they died and their bodies further went down the mountain. So really, even if he didn't summit the mountain, how high did he get? Keep in mind, Irvine's body was never found, and the camera the two originally brought with them also remains undiscovered. Number 9, who was Jack the Ripper? This is probably could be number 1. There has been so many theories about the 5 victims in the Whitechapel district of London in the 1800s. Now keep in mind, we're talking the 1880s here. There is no surveillance footage, there's no cell phones, there's no cell phone cameras, there's nothing like that. And this is a poor area where there are a lot of brothels and there are a lot of ladies of the night. Oftentimes ladies would be found mutilated with their entrails ripped outside of their body. They were mutilated brutally, and although it is speculated it was a butcher or a doctor, somebody for sure knew the human anatomy, and there were lots and lots of suspects. Nobody has ever been apprehended, and nobody ever will, obviously, as everybody from that time is dead. I don't think we're ever gonna find out who Jack the Ripper really was. Number 8, the Teamsters Union was very, very strong in the 1970s, the 60s, the 50s, and the man in charge was Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa was very popular. He was revered. He was as popular as any politician that there ever was, but his body went missing in 1975. He was never seen again. I cover the story more detail in this video right here if you want to see exactly what I think happened. There's been many theories and speculation. The movie The Irishman is basically, the entirety of the movie is about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, although the chances that Frank Sheeran was the actual killer is probably not the case. Even the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski, it said in 2006 in one of his last ever documented tapings of his voice, he was the one who killed Jimmy Hoffa and then dumped his body in a scrapyard. There's been theories that he was put into the base of Giant Stadium and then it was filled with concrete. Chances are we're never ever going to find his body. It was meant to be that way, and no one's ever going to talk, if even the person who is responsible or people with knowledge were even alive. Number 7, where is Cleopatra's tomb? Cleopatra the 7th was the lover of Mark Antony, and they were buried together in a tomb after their deaths in 30 BC. It was written that the tomb is located near the temple of Isis. Apparently it's silver and gold in this lofty, beautiful monument, but it has never been found, and although there has been archaeological digs in the place we think it might be, there's no evidence that it was ever Cleopatra's. And in fact, we think now the chances of finding it are next to zero, because what are the chances in the last 2,000 plus years that it hasn't been pillaged and plundered brutally? It would probably be unrecognizable today. Number 6, who is the Babushka lady? Babushka lady is this woman right here, oftentimes seen in the JFK footage of that fateful day in November of 1963 when he was assassinated. I think everybody who has an IQ higher than their shoe size realizes that it wasn't a lone shooter, and the whole theory of what happened probably wasn't what actually happened. If you don't know, basically apparently there was a magic bullet that went through his brain and then it ended up in his wrist. Like this whole, it was just, it's ridiculous. Nobody knows who actually killed JFK. But Babushka lady, who is right there and seen videotaping this incident, has never been identified, no idea who she is, where she went, and that footage has never surfaced. What are the chances you saw the biggest event of your entire life and you didn't show anybody the footage, you didn't tell anybody about it, and you didn't come forward? I don't know who Babushka lady is, but my guess is she died really soon after that, and nobody is ever going to spill the beans on exactly what happened. Although it will be interesting to see the unclassified documents finally, once everybody who is involved has finally died. If we ever get to see them, I will be first in line to read and figure out exactly what happened. Number 5, who was D.B. Cooper? D.B. Cooper was a man who was on a plane in 1971, and he decided he was going to rob the plane. He demanded $200,000 in ransom money, which in today's money is about $1.35 million. So this is a ton of cash. He gets the cash, he parachutes out of a plane over the Northwest, which there's basically nothing there. I mean, realistically, besides Bigfoot, he's probably not going to see another upright being unless he really knows how to get out of there. And the likelihood of him surviving is pretty slim. It was rainy, it was cold, none of his cash was officially found, we don't know who he is, and to this day, it remains the only unsolved hijacking case in US history. Also, leave a comment below. Do you want to hear an entire video about any of these topics? Let me know. That's where I get all the ideas from the videos. Number 4, what happened to the Sodder children? I did an entire video all about this, which you can watch right here. In 1945, on Christmas Eve, there was a giant fire in a big house with a lot of children in it. In the West Virginia house, 5 of the 10 children were believed to be dead, but when they looked for bodies and bones, they didn't find anything at all. There's also some tomfoolery by law enforcement putting animal parts into a box and explaining those were the children, and then later it was found out that wasn't the case. There was no remains in the fire whatsoever. The fire did not burn hot enough for long enough to cremate the bodies, which means there's no way that they died in the fire. So what happened to them? They've never been seen since. Number 3, why were all these dead bodies found on this ship? In 1947, the Dutch freighter SS Ourang Medan reportedly sent out distress signals, claiming that the crew was dying. And when rescuers finally arrived, they found the entire crew dead with expressions of horror on their face. The causes of death have never been determined, and the ship itself mysteriously disappeared afterwards. How does a ship just disappear? This one is a crazy one, and I would love to do a full video if you want to see it. Number 2, where is the Mary Celeste? There was a merchant ship in 1972 called the Mary Celeste. It was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean with no crew aboard. Now, ghost ships are a really interesting topic. There are a ton of them, but usually there is some sort of explanation on how that happens in the first place. The ship was actually in great condition, and there were no signs of struggle or foul play, no pirates trying to jump board, it was not capsizing or anything like that. So nobody knows what happened to the crew. There are various theories. In fact, there was one lifeboat missing, but it was never found, and there's no reason that everybody would jump off of the ship into a life raft in the first place. So nobody really knows what happened to the crew on the ship. Number 1, who was the Zodiac killer? Now, the Zodiac killer, if you're into serial killers and that type of topic, is probably one of the most interesting ones because he was never found. This is a 1960s and 1970s killer who used to send these ciphers, what looks like a bunch of scrambled up numbers and letters to someone like you or I, to the police to then uncover what the true meaning was. And although some of these ciphers, in fact, were uncovered what they actually meant, they were decoded, Nobody has ever found out who the man was. There are many theories that it could have been somebody who was already in jail or died in jail. That's why they stopped killing in the 1970s. Or maybe it was somebody who just retired and then vanished. Never killed again, and definitely never sent any letters to the police. Which of these do you think you know the answer to? Let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, please hit like and subscribe. That's what helps us keep making videos. And as always, we do videos every weekend. So I'll see you in the next one.